If you're ready to buy or sell your home, then stop in at 4234 Market Street to let one of the agents at Howard Hanna Professionals help. Our friendly and knowledgeable agents can help you find the key to your dream home. Looking for a new career? Howard Hanna Professionals can help there too. Howard Hanna Professionals will assist new and experienced agents with the startup fees for an exciting career in real estate. Call Katrina Laurie at 814-726-2000 for more information.
Here at Casella, we make temporary dumpster rental easy, offering services that are perfect for construction, remodeling, special events, or other short-term projects. Casella dumpsters are available in a wide range of sizes to fit any job. Our dedicated customer service team will help you choose the right size container and service level for your project and schedule hassle-free removal based on your specific needs. The right size dumpster, when you want it, where you want it, removed when you say so.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Coffee and Conversation here on Your Daily Local. Brian Hagberg with you as your host. Joined this week by our very special guest, Pennsylvania Treasurer Stacy Garrity. And Ms. Garrity, thank you so much for taking some time and sit down with us and let people know who you are and what the Treasurer's Office is all about.
Brian, thanks for having me.
And so this is Coffee and Conversation, and usually we have some steaming hot coffee in front of us, but we're recording this on Friday afternoon, and it is god awful hot out there. And I failed to think about bringing hot coffee today, so my apologies for that. But let's kind of get into a little bit. What did you do as the state treasurer, and what drew you to that role?
Okay, so that's a great question. So as the state treasurer, my main job is to be the fiscal watchdog for $170 billion. And of that $170 billion, my office directly invests about $50 billion of that. And then we run a number of wonderful consumer programs. So one of my favorites is unclaimed property. So we have over $5 billion in unclaimed property. And so this is money that belongs to hardworking Pennsylvanians that earned it, not the state. So we're working really hard to get it right back into the, people's hands. I also run the PA 529 College and Career Savings Plan, and that is a wonderful plan to help parents and grandparents save for their child's education, post-secondary education, not just a four-year degree, but it can be community college, technical school, qualified apprenticeships, and K through 12. I also run PA ABLE. ABLE stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience, and that is for our Pennsylvanians with disabilities. So it allows them to save their own money without risking important federal benefits, which before ABLE was impossible to do, which was really disgraceful. Yeah. And we also have, I should mention, Keystone Scholars, and that is $100 educational jumpstart for every baby born after January 1st, 2019. And we do a lot more. Those are the main things. But I'm going to tell you a couple things about what we don't do. Okay. Because sometimes it gets confusing. So I do not collect taxes or process tax returns. That is Department of Revenue. Mm-hmm. I do not determine eligibility for property tax rent rebate. That's also Department of Revenue. But what we do is make the payments. And as soon as they send me over a file, we get those payments out within a day because I know how important that is to our seniors and people with disabilities. And I also do not determine eligibility for unemployment compensation. Right. That is the Department of Labor and Industry. But again, we make the payments. And I should have mentioned, we make every payment in the Commonwealth, which is about 19 million payments a year. Fun fact, 3 payments a second.
Whew. That's a lot of payments.
It is.
And we're thankful for that. I'm going to say by we, I mean my family, my daughter's in one of the state programs. And so we get a insurance check every month that comes from your office. So we are very thankful that you guys are processing 3 payments a second. But it seems like, I think that was a very important distinction to make between what your office does and what the Department of Revenue does, because it seems like a lot of people kind of conflate the two.
They do
at the time, or oftentimes. And so what's the easiest way that you found to kind of make it easier for people to understand that, treasurers do this and Department of Revenue does this?
So So I go to all 67 counties every single year. I have an outreach team that did last year 1,000 in-person events. And we just try and get the word out. And also we've simplified our website. So it's very easy. If you go to patreasury.gov, there is a page for every program. And we have streamlined it, made it so simple to understand. And we also have call centers.
Okay. So very good. So what what drew you to the treasurer's office? What made you want to seek out that position? I mean, this is an elected position, so you have to campaign and do all of those things. What drew you to the treasurer's office?
It is. And what's funny is this is my first elected position ever.
Yeah.
So usually you don't jump into a statewide position, but I was born and raised in Bradford County. And so, service to my community, service to my family, service to my church family. It was always a big part of my life. And so I spent 30 years in the private sector, working in manufacturing, working at the largest tungsten smelter in the Western world, Global Tungsten and Powders. And at the same time, I had a dual career because I spent 30 years in the United States Army Reserve, so military police. And so I hit my mandatory retirement date in 2016. And if I had not hit my mandatory retirement date, I would have never thought about running for office because serving was and is the honor of my lifetime. So after I retired, it was funny. The second weekend home, my husband looked at me and said, "Don't you have somewhere you have to be?" And I said, "No, actually I don't. Isn't that great?"
Yeah.
So his golf handicap suffered a little bit. Now it's back down to, lowest it's ever been because I'm not home a lot. But I started missing, just service.
Right.
And so this is kind of a long story, but we had a congressional seat open up. And so I called my state rep and I said, "Hey, if I'm thinking about politics, do you think I should, jump into this?" It was a conferee process, so it wasn't like a normal election. And she said, "Are you kidding me? You're interested?" And I said, "Yeah." And so there were 31 people that ran for it, 31.
Wow.
And so my goal was really just to get nominated, make it through the first speech and make it through a couple rounds. So I made it to the top 20%, which I thought was pretty good for a total political newbie.
Yeah.
And so, wasn't successful, but it was a great experience and I met so many wonderful people. And so when these statewide positions came open, I was approached and they said, "Stacy, would you consider running for treasurer?" And of course, there was an incumbent in the seat, very popular gentleman, Joe Torcella from Montgomery County. And so, of course, I said, "Absolutely not. I'm from Bradford County. I am."
Have to be crazy to take on this challenge,
exactly.
Right?
And so I said no for months, Brian. And then finally they didn't find somebody. And I prayed about it and I thought about it and I thought, well, if not me, then who?
Yeah.
And so I jumped in and then the pandemic hit.
No big deal. Easy, right? Easy to campaign during a pandemic. Sure. So what did you learn from that initial run that you said that in the special election that you were able to kind of take away and maybe apply to your initial or to your first campaign for treasurer?
You know what? Really not a whole lot because it lasted like 2 weeks, that first conferee process. So it was really just a bunch of, Lincoln Day dinners and it was in a congressional district. So that was like 16 counties versus, 67 counties. So I wouldn't say a whole lot, just except for the fact that, I knew that there are so many Pennsylvanians, particularly in our rural counties, because 48 out of 67 are rural, that think they get left behind by Harrisburg. And so I always say I am the champion for rural PA.
I know that's absolutely a sentiment here in Warren County that often we're just kind of an afterthought.
Exactly.
So why is it? And I know one of the hallmarks of your tenure here as treasurer has been that you go to all 67 counties every year. Why is that so important to you?
So after I won, the people, I wasn't supposed to win, first of all.
Right, yeah.
And in fact, I'm the first treasurer from a rural county in over 40 years. So, So after I won, people were like, "Who are you?" Because I had never ran for anything and I wasn't supposed to win. And, so people weren't really tracking it. So I said, "You know what? I'm going to go to all 67 counties," because I knew from campaigning that nobody knows what the treasurer does.
Right.
And they don't understand the programs. A lot of people have never even heard of PA Able because it's fairly new. And so I went to all 67 counties. And then the second year we got to 55. And so I said, well, we went to 55. We might as well get to 67. And now it's sort of my brand, but I do love it because I think it's important to go meet people where they are. I go to community events, legislative events. I go to technical schools. anything.
Right.
And we have an initiative, Made in PA Mondays. So I visit a lot of manufacturers
Right.
because, of course, I love manufacturing.
Right. Yeah.
And I want to, meet people where they're at and see what we can do to be helpful and what they need, from the state.
So what are some of the things that you're able to take away from those visits then and take back with you to Harrisburg and say, hey, as you're approaching some of these programs or whatever, that we need to maybe think about doing things in a different way because I talked to somebody here. I mean, what are some of those takeaways that you get?
Sure. So here's a good example. So for the PA 529, I found that most people still thought it was only for a 4-year degree. And so we flipped that script. And now we talk about community colleges. We talk about technical schools, qualified apprenticeships, K through 12. So we tried to flip that script. And I think it worked because our program 2 years ago got upgraded to gold.
Oh.
And at the time, we were only one of 2 gold plans in the entire nation. And we kept that rating because then I was like, oh no, now we have to keep it.
Now the pressure's on,
exactly,
right? Yeah.
Exactly. And, I know that, people are trying so hard to save, but it's hard. And so we've reduced fees. So reduced fees by $17 million. So I came out and said, what can we do to really lower our fees? Because that's money that goes right back into the pockets of hardworking parents and grandparents. Yeah. The other thing was unclaimed property. So most people don't even know they have unclaimed property. Right. And you're in rural PA, people don't even want to check because they think that I do taxes and they think I'm going to, and I'm always saying, no, I want to give, not receive. Right. Yeah. Right. So what I did was I saw some other states had, put through legislation that allowed the treasurer to proactively return unclaimed property. Yeah. And so we wrote a bill, gave it to the General Assembly, said, run this. Pennsylvania money match, passed unanimously, actually eliminating red tape from government. How great is that? Almost unheard of. Yeah. And so now we can proactively return unclaimed property. That just kicked in January. So up to $500 for a single owner.
Yes. Yeah, I was reading briefly about that and was gonna. Yeah. that was on my mind about how does that work? But I
can elaborate later in the conversation.
Yeah. Well, and I know the local chamber has partnered with Heidi Villala, who's been very proactive in telling me frequently, you got to sit down with Stacy. You got to sit down with Stacy. So
she's wonderful.
But I know they've run some unclaimed property clinics here in the county, and Heidi's told me they've had thousands of dollars been returned to people right here in rural Pennsylvania. They
have. And in fact, in a rural county, and I'm not going to say which county, but it's in Northwest. Okay. There was an elderly lady, 98 years old, that had over $1 million. And they were insurance checks from her deceased husband.
Yeah.
And so we found them and we helped her. And then when we sent the check, we finally had to call and say, deposit your check. Yeah. so yes, there is a lot of money when you think about the fact that, there's $5 billion. So we did hit the 1-year record 2 fiscal years ago, $274 million. And we hit the record for the most money given back in 2 consecutive years, $505 million. So since I've been in office, we've almost given back $1 billion. But this Pennsylvania money match will allow us to give back even more. Right. In fact, just last week, letters saying, hey, you're going to be getting a check from Treasury. It's your money. Cash the check, basically.
Well, you have to tell people that right? Because they don't. It's so many.
There's so many scams.
Yes. Here's this check for. But it's actually a loan application, whatever, and they just go in the trash.
I know. And so mid-June, the checks will go out from these letters that we sent, and so there will be about $10 million in checks for people that didn't even know that they had money coming. Yeah. Which is great because inflation is still a little high, right? And a few $100s can help families that might be struggling.
Sure. Oh yeah. Well, and especially in the summer, your air conditioner goes out or something. An extra $500. All of us, hey, now I can replace that or get something fixed or whatever. Like I said, I know through conversations that I've had with Heidi, she said people are always just amazed at the amount, and I think part of it is too just educating people on what unclaimed property is.
Yes.
Like you said, the one woman had a bunch of insurance checks that went uncashed, but how does some of that unclaimed property come about? What is it and how does it
Okay, so
becoming
unclaimed property can be so many things. So it could be a dormant checking or savings account. It could be just uncashed checks, rebates, old stocks or bonds, insurance refunds. And so much more.
Right.
And we also get tangible items. And most of the tangible items come from abandoned safe deposit boxes. But we also get items from police evidence lockers, nursing homes, college dorms. And so basically by statute, after 3 years of dormancy, financial institutions and other groups are required to escheat the money to Treasury. So then, once a year we'll put all the names in the, local newspapers and say, hey, you have unclaimed property, but that's just for the recent year that was turned into us. So people should still go online and check. But for the tangible items, we will look for at least 3 years for the owner.
Okay.
And then if we don't find the owner, sometimes we will auction off the property, because although we have the largest working vault in the nation, sometimes we run out of room. So we'll have an auction in the spring and an auction in the fall. We'll auction off, collectibles, jewelry. Right now we have 3 autographed guitars in the Treasury, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Rolling Stones, Guns N' Roses that we just got. And that was from a police evidence locker. So some very cool items.
All right.
Yes. And something else interesting about the vault. It's not only the largest working vault in the nation, but it was built in 1939. And at the time, it was just under $600,000. So if you adjusted that today, it'd be like $13 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And the front door alone is 60 tons of steel. So I always tell people, so if you watch the movie Ocean's 11, like kind of picture that, except our vault is really cooler than that. But we don't have George Clooney, I confess.
You don't have him just hanging out in the vault?
No. Not about getting a cutout, but I haven't.
All right. Well, with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but we will be back with more with State Treasurer Stacy Garrity on Coffee and a Conversation right after this.
Here at the Warren County Chamber of Business and Industry, we like to focus on our community, help our local businesses expand and succeed.
Why join WCCBI? Not only do we offer a way for local businesses to grow and prosper, but we also provide business development, community involvement, and member benefits.
Becoming a member of WCCBI includes benefits such as networking and ribbon cutting.
Become a member or to see additional information, visit WCCBI.org today.
For all your automotive needs, look no further than the Warren Tire Center. From new tires to tire repairs, PA state inspections, wheel alignments, and auto detailing, there's so much more that we can do for you, and there's no reason to go anywhere but the Warren Tire Center in Warren, Pennsylvania. With over 40 years of serving the Warren and surrounding communities, it's always been a great day at the Warren Tire Center. We offer same-day service and walk-ins are welcome. Open Monday through Friday from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m., the Warren Tire Center can be reached at 814-723-8050 and on the web at warrentirecenter.com.
Introducing the latest merchandise from Your Daily Local and the YDL Sports Network. Now you can show your support for local news and sports journalism with t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, tumblers, and more available at the YDL shop. With multiple color and size options available, there's something for everyone. And the best part? All the proceeds support local businesses. Head to ice-box.store/YDL/shop/home to get your gear today.
I'm Cody Brown, and I approve this message. I'm Cody Brown. For over a decade, I've prosecuted the toughest crimes, including homicide, arson, sex offense, and so much more, protecting our community with dedication and experience. After graduating from law school, my wife and I moved back to Warren County to raise our family because this is home, and we believe in its future. I'm invested in our community. I serve on multiple organization boards and hold leadership roles in groups that make differences right here at home. I've handled over 1,400 cases, received restitution to victims over $750,000, hid drug dealers in their wallets, forfeiting over $35,000 of their assets. I'm ready to serve as your district attorney. Vote May 20th. Paid for by the Committee to Elect Cody Brown.
And welcome back to the Coffee and a Conversation. Brian Hagberg with you on Your Daily Local. Our guest this week, Pennsylvania Treasurer Stacy Garrity. And Stacy, you mentioned before the break that part of what propelled you or drew you to the Treasurer's office was this desire to continue service.
Correct.
You've been in the Army Reserve for 30 years, right?
30.
Correct? And retired as a colonel, if I'm not
I
mistaken.
did. You're right.
And one of the things I found, I wanted to ask you this because on your Wikipedia page, it says you were nicknamed the Angel of the Desert. How did that come about?
I was. So in 2003, 2004, at Camp Buka in southern Iraq, so they had picked up we had at one time like 12,000 detainees. I think at the time we were down to 7,000, but they were largely green, and they had basically picked up any male that could be of military age.
Sure.
And so I had people that were really bad, but I also had just young men that got picked up for having an AK-47. Right. And so there was this one young man that had been in medical school, and both of his parents were teachers. And so they would come to family visitation twice a week and see him. And they would always say, can't you do something? He'd already missed a semester and they wanted him to go to school. So I was to submit names of folks that I wanted to go through a tribunal to see if they could be released. So I submitted his name. He got released. His parents were so elated that they spread the word all over Iraq. and so from then on, I had hundreds of people lined up every day from the gate saying, we want to see the blonde major that helps the people.
So if we were to go to Iraq, are you like a quasi celebrity there? Is that what I'm hearing?
Probably not, because that was a long time ago. So I'm sure they've forgotten about me.
But so what have you been able to draw from 30 years in the Army Reserve now and apply some of those leadership lessons to your current role as a state treasurer?
Right. So the Army values, there's 7 Army values, and they're loyalty, duty, respect, service, honor, integrity, personal courage. And so I always said, I continue to live the Army values 24/7, and you have to do it, especially when nobody's looking.
Right.
And I truly apply those also to the Treasury. And I run it like a business. I will work with anybody that wants to make Pennsylvania a better place to work, live, and raise a family. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat or an independent. And I can tell you that my office is pretty much 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Apparently, I am in the first row office that when they switched parties didn't have the place. And I got called saying, Stacy, we know you're new to politics, but, you have to fire the other side. And I said, well, I ran a battalion in a war zone, and I think I can put together a staff because our job, there are some arcane positions.
Sure.
They're very technical. And I wanted to surround myself by the very best people. And a lot of people have so much institutional knowledge. So I am blessed to have a wonderful staff.
Yeah. Well, and I would think, too, there's got to be value in hearing that kind of dissenting voice, I guess, for lack of a better word, right? Like somebody that's maybe not always going to agree ideologically, right, with everything that's happening. Right?
Exactly. But really, our office is pretty apolitical. We really call balls and strikes.
Yeah.
And that is our job. And I think we do a pretty good job at doing it because we've broken about in the first term just about every record at Treasury. And it's been a great experience. I love it. Every day that I get to wake up and serve Pennsylvanians, I consider a blessing. Yeah.
And so one of the other things we mentioned, your goal is to get to every county every year. And I know you've been in Warren County several times. I know last year you got a chance to check out the Warren County Fair, which is one of our marquee events here. And you've toured the Career Center.
I did the Career Center and a lot of the local businesses. So spent a fair amount of time.
So what were some of your takeaways from those visits, especially considering the Career Center, which a lot of folks here call our shining star on the hill, right? Because it's literally on the hill.
It really was impressive. Yeah. And, Career Centers are so incredibly important because when I travel to businesses, and it doesn't matter which county I go to, what does everybody need? Yeah. Skilled labor. Mm-hmm. And so that's why with the 529, I'm always pushing the technical angle as well, because these are, just wonderful family sustaining jobs. Yeah. And, we need more of them, and businesses are trying to be innovative and partner with the career centers. And, they'll take these kids right when they get out of high school in many instances.
It's funny you mentioned that. In fact, they just had, the chamber just held their second annual sign-on day ceremony yesterday
Oh,
at the
that's
Career
great.
Center. Kind of people are more familiar with athletes when they do a signing day,
Yes.
right? Sign their letter of intent to play. Well, they recognize all the kids that are graduating from the Career Center that have already committed to stay on and work at local employers. I think there was about a dozen or so yesterday at the event. And it's one of those things that, like you mentioned, encouraging kids that, hey, there are opportunities for you to stay here. You don't necessarily have to go to, college or university or a trade school. You can go right from the Career Center to the workforce.
And one of the things that I hear from parents and grandparents when I travel to the four corners of the Commonwealth is they want opportunities for their kids and their grandkids, and they want those opportunities to occur in Pennsylvania. Yeah. So I am really pro jobs, pro growth.
So what was kind of your motivation then? You mentioned some of the changes to the 529, making sure people are aware of what it is able to help them with. What was kind of the motivation behind that and getting that information?
The motivation really behind pushing all of our consumer programs was when I campaigned, I realized that nobody knows what the treasurer does. And people in rural counties felt left out. And so one of the first things I did, Brian, was create an outreach team. And so they were doing outreach just from Harrisburg. And I live in Bradford County. I said, you can't send somebody from Harrisburg to Bradford County. Yeah. So now we have somebody in the Northeast, the Northwest, the Southeast, the Southwest, and two in Central. And so we're trying to put people where they're at, right with their communities. Yeah. And they go to every event. Like I mentioned earlier, they did over 1,000 in-person outreach events last year. And I think that's why we broke the record in unclaimed property, not 1 year, but just, 2 years, that we broke the record in the 529 by reducing fees by $17 million, getting the plan upgraded, and able, we tripled, we doubled the accounts and tripled the assets under management. And so guess what? Pennsylvania ranks number 5 in the nation for their ABLE plan. And that's pretty good because Pennsylvania is not normally leading the way. Right. So I'm very proud about that.
So what do you have to do then to keep climbing those ranks, get up to number 1?
Oh gosh. I think we'll get there. We just have to keep promoting it. There's going to be the Able Age Adjustment Act. Okay. So right now, to qualify for ABLE, the onset of your disability would have had to occur before the age of 26. Okay. So the Able Age Adjustment Act, that kicks in January 1st, 2026. So the age goes from 26 to 46, which will make 6 million more Americans eligible, including 1 million veterans, which of course that's very near and dear to my heart.
Same. My wife's an Air Force veteran.
So make sure you thank her for her service.
Absolutely will. And that's, half of my family served at one point or another. So yes, we are always looking for ways to do things for our veterans and to thank them and thank you as well because you are a veteran. And so when you kind of take a look at where you started and where things stand now, any other kind of big projects on the horizon? What are some of your next goals for the future?
Right. So Pennsylvania Money Match, which we talked about, that just kicked in. What else just kicked in was reforms at Board of Finance and Revenue. So Board of Finance and Revenue is under Treasury, and Board of Finance and Revenue hears every single tax appeal, which people normally don't know, right? And so previously, you had to file your appeal with the Department of Revenue within 60 days. Okay. Or you couldn't hear the appeal. Right. And so what happened that caused some very, harsh impacts to people. So I'll give you a couple examples. There was a woman going through very aggressive cancer treatment. And so she filed her appeal 1 day late. And so we couldn't hear it.
Right. Yeah.
We weren't able to legally.
Right.
And so another case, there was a truck driver who had a great filing history, but he was working in Texas. And he couldn't access his tax records. Yes. Yeah. There was an auto mechanic shop that accidentally filed their appeal to the Department of Revenue instead of the Board of Finance and Revenue. And then in another case, there was a traveling nurse. And so she had her mail forwarded to her elderly mother, and the mother didn't recognize the statement from the Department of Revenue. So in all these cases, it would not have hurt the Commonwealth to accept the late filed appeals, but we weren't able to. So now we moved from 60 days to 90 days. And guess what? It's already working because the number of late filed appeals have been cut down by 60, 70%.
Sure, yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah.
And the other thing we did was put a mediated settlement process in.
Okay.
So right now, if Department of Revenue doesn't accept your settlement offer, you get dragged out for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
You have to hire a lawyer. It can go to Commonwealth Court. So now the taxpayer can request a mediated settlement at no cost to them.
Okay.
So you know what? This helps the little guy.
Sure.
And that's
Yeah.
what I'm all about.
Yeah. Well, and some of those examples that you give, you understand the need to have systems and procedures in place, but there's got to be an avenue for the human factor to be considered.
There does.
Yeah.
And because I come from the private sector and the military, I can't stand bureaucracy.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
so we really work hard to take it out, especially in my agency. The other thing I should mention that we do is, because I like to say that Pennsylvania was doing Doge before Doge was cool, because my office has a pre-audit function. Because we make every payment in the state, we look at 86% of all the payments that go through. And so just last fiscal year, we stopped $1.7 billion of improper payments. And so we do an element of, Doge.
Well, and just you protecting the people's money.
I am,
Yeah.
because when it comes down to it, it is all taxpayer dollars.
So you're here now.
I am.
When can we expect to see you back in Warren County? And what do you plan to visit the next time you're here?
Oh gosh. So when I leave here, I'm going to go to Forest County and we're going to go visit maple syrup manufacturer.
Yanni's.
Yes.
So, state award winning.
Yes, I know. Yes. I'm so excited. So I'm going there with Senator Hutchison.
Okay.
And I'll be back.
Yeah.
Definitely.
You the Terminator over there? Or what?
I know. I'll be back.
Yeah. Sorry, I spent way too long working in video retail. So people say things and I throw obscure movie quotes at them. But given your preferences, if you could come back and visit an event or a place here in Warren County, what would be tops on your list?
Oh gosh, I love the fair.
Yeah.
But probably another manufacturer.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if I can top the career center.
Right.
That was wonderful.
Yeah.
I also went through and toured the police station and the firefighters, and that was also wonderful. So I've seen a lot of Warren.
So I will say, if you come in the fall, Trail Fest is a big one. Yeah. And then Winterfest in the early winter. Always.
I don't know about Winterfest, but maybe Trail Fest.
Yeah. Winterfest can be a little. Well, we finally had a winter for Winterfest.
I know.
The last couple of years, it's been warm, and this year it was absolutely not warm. So, but just a couple of suggestions, things to keep on your radar next time you're mapping out your tours of Warren County. So. But I do want to say thank you very much for taking some time out to sit down with us, explain a little bit about the treasurer's office. And let
it's my
people
pleasure,
know.
Brian.
And if somebody needs to reach out to you or to your office, what's the best way for them?
So if you go to patreasury.gov, and so if they need help with unclaimed property, there is a number.
Okay.
And believe me, they will get a call back within 24 hours, I promise.
Yeah.
If they have a question on PA 529, the same thing, PA ABLE, same thing. And then there's a general inquiry number as well. And so, reach out. We're happy to help.
All right. Well, that'll wrap it up for this episode of Coffee and a Conversation. I want to thank Treasurer Stacy Garrity for taking some time with us. I want to thank you at home for watching. And this is Brian Hagberg on your Daily Local saying thanks so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
For 40 years, the Warren Forest High Ed Council has been your access to lifelong learning. Registration for SkillQuest Career Exploration and Summer Camps is open now. Reserve your student spot today. Make 2025 the summer you take the next step with a beach glass art course. Learn how to utilize your iPhone and iPad, first aid and CPR training, and a food safety course. Go to high-ed.org or call 814-723-3222 to register now. At Wendy's Wellness Service, we can pick up your dog and take them to the groomer, your local vet, or even to the park. Safe, reliable, and friendly service to give you and your dog a great experience. Our pet taxi service is available weekdays from 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Call or text 814-706-9534 to let your pet ride in style. Wendy's Wellness Service, providing happiness to owners and pets. Founded in 1978 and headquartered in Warren, Pennsylvania General Energy has become a leading oil and natural gas producer in the Appalachian Basin. PGE is a proud and growing organization making positive contributions to the region's economy and environment. We are equally proud of our commitment to safety and environmental programs. PGE is a strong, family-oriented company that believes in giving back to the communities in which we live, work, and play. PGE, producing the energy we need, protecting the environment we treasure.
Get him! He cannot! Caleb Jacobzak! Gonna go 90!
High school sports aren't just games, they're the heart of the community. And now, your Daily Local is giving our high school athletes the spotlight they deserve. With dedicated broadcast teams and reporters covering each school, we're bringing every play, every highlight, and every unforgettable moment straight to fans. Now your business can be part of the action. Sponsoring local high school sports means more than just advertising. It means connecting with thousands of students, families, and fans who love this community just as much as you do. With live broadcasts, social media promotions, website features, and more, your brand will be front and center during the biggest moments of the season. Don't miss this opportunity to showcase your business and support our local athletes. Sponsorships are limited, so act now. Join us in making high school sports bigger than ever. Contact us today at sales@yourdailylocal.com or call 814-688-6810 to secure your spot.